Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Not for Time podcast. I'm Sean Woodland.
I'm John Wooley.
Thanks so much for joining us today as we're going to talk to Jacob Heppner. But first of all, John, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good. Did you do some insane high rocks training?
I did. Yeah, I did some hard work pays off. High rocks training here in my basement gym that you can see behind me, and it was absolutely miserable. It took me about an hour. My watch told me I nearly died, so it was exactly as it should have been.
But did you die? No,
I
you
got
didn't.
real close, Sean. I got
Nice.
real close a couple of times.
I'm glad you're doing that stuff because that is like when I die and go to hell, it's just going to be high rocks training the whole time. It's just going to be just hour-long workouts of running and
It was another one of those 4-rounders that we talked to Matt about. And I literally finished the first one and said to myself halfway to halfway, because he said that, and it's terrible. When you start thinking of it in those terms, you're like, oh my God, I got 3/4 of the way to go. It's so bad.
God, why would you make that worse on yourself?
Yeah, well, he put it in my head. Now I can't get it out.
All right. Well, today we're speaking to Jacob Heppner, and Jacob is currently involved in the tactical games. So we're going to give you the tactical games description, how they describe Jacob Heppner. He's a 5-time CrossFit Games male individual athlete. This is according to the tactical games. He's an undefeated boxer with a career record of 1-0 and a mediocre shooter. So without further ado, here's our conversation with Jacob Heppner. Jacob, thanks for joining us today. Where does this podcast find you on this fine Thursday afternoon?
Like, where am I at?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm at home. We're in Kansas City, Kansas, the greatest state of the union, in my office in the basement of my house, like a hermit.
Well, I mean, at least it's your own basement, not your mom's basement. Because then
yeah, exactly.
Then I would start to worry. Well, thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it. A lot we want to talk with you about today. And I guess let's start with this. Let's start with why you made the transition from CrossFit to the tactical games.
Yeah, I mean, so I transitioned over in 2020, I believe. I wasn't sick of CrossFit. Never have been. It was just a weird time in the world for everyone for various reasons, and a weird season. And I kind of, I had been given advice from Jason Khalipa back in my rookie year at the games of like, hey man, might feel like a job at some point, but do it as long as you love it. And then when you don't love it and it becomes a job, find something else. And I kind of felt like I had put my time in, and I had other opportunities that were popping up slowly that had become apparent. I enjoyed at that time shooting guns and learning that. And then Josh's manager had hit me up and had asked me to box Josh. And so I had a couple opportunities in 2021 that I was like, I probably can make more money and have something new and learn a new skill, whether it be boxing or shooting. In 2021, that's a lot different than what I have done for the past 7 years. And I decided, we're done. That's it. Like, I thought maybe I'd come back, consider it. But, if I didn't like boxing or didn't like shooting guns, that I'd probably go back. I didn't like boxing, to clarify. I never went back to that. But I enjoy the community, the aspect around the tactical games, and the way I kind of looked at it, which I'm sure we'll get into, is like, if I had the opportunity to go back in 2009 and join CrossFit, and Rich had joined it, and be a part of a movement in the very beginning when the sport is being birthed, would I? Absolutely. Who wouldn't? And so I have that similar opportunity in my mind over the tactical games, albeit less televised because of the gun aspect to it. But if I have an opportunity to be a part of the birth of a sport and the early years of the sport and help drive it and help get eyeballs on it, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's what I've enjoyed doing, and that's why I've pretty much stayed over there in my own lane.
I just noticed your subheading on your name, Short Bald Dude.
Yeah, I didn't realize it didn't say put your Instagram handle, so I was like, give your title, and I was like, well, there's a couple of bald guys. I'll be the short one.
I think it fits. We should start giving out booster seats to the people coming to the show, Sean.
It's probably.
I lowered my desk for you guys, so I mean, if I raised it, I'd be a lot shorter.
What were the main challenges for you in making that switch?
I mean, number one, you see a lot in our sport is you see a lot of it in younger athletes. When I say our sport, I mean CrossFit, right? You see a lot of it in younger athletes where they define themselves by who they are in the sport. And like, I am Joe, and Joe does CrossFit, and I go to the CrossFit games. I'm a CrossFit Games athlete, and that's all I am. And so you see in a lot of younger athletes, because they get so early into the sport, that's how they define themselves. And I think you see in a little bit of older athletes that showed up that like, that's not who I am. It was hard to step away for sure, and to find myself and define myself by a different sport. Still, I'm on this call because of CrossFit, so obviously I'm still around. That was a difficult jump, and I think you ask any athlete, it's a difficult jump to leave a sport that's given you so much and go to define yourself in a different sport and start over. It is tough to start in a new sport when you start at the top of something. You're like, hey, I'm elite or world class at a sport. And to then say, I'm going to try a different sport, I'm going to be dog trash. Like, that's a tough leap to make. Did that in boxing, did that in shooting. But I honestly forgot your question, if I'm being quite honest, you know.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you answered it. So I'll let John answer.
No, I was curious about the tactical games and just the community and the culture that goes along with it, Jacob. I've been to one event, and it felt like a very similar community to CrossFit to me, in the fact that everyone's like really bonded through these workouts. But it's really, I think the misunderstanding about tactical games is people think it's just CrossFit with shooting. Can you expand on that some, the community, and then, kind of the workouts themselves?
Yeah. So two-part question, right? So part one, community shows up, right? The first one I went to in 2021, I was going to give it a shot. If I hated it, you won't see me go do it again, kind of like boxing. And showed up to the event. I didn't know anybody. I had already previously trash talked going into it, thinking I was going to be better than I was. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. But really grow fond of the guys that were there. Number one, they helped me out. It reminds me of like the story you always hear of Annie being taught muscle ups in the back at Aromas, right? I didn't know how to mount my optic. I'm pretty sure I mounted it backwards on my rifle. The guy that I'm competing with, who's a good friend of mine today, helped me zero it. I didn't hit anything the whole weekend, so I honestly think he screwed me over in the long run. But no, it doesn't matter, right? Let's do another story for another day. But like, he helped me out. And so that will quickly remind me of the community that I had already come from, in terms of like, hey, I know I'm going to line up next to you and we're going to compete, Sean, but you're willing to go out of your way to help me and learn something that might be extremely helpful, and I might beat you. I didn't end up beating him, but the community aspect really drove me. And you have two different types of people that really show up to these events. You have people like me, really good at fitness, couldn't tell you jack diddly about guns, right? And then you have the other side of the field, which is people who come from law enforcement, military, or just a gun background from competing, but aren't really good at fitness. And you have there's pretty much the two groups of people that show up. In the grand scheme of things, they have kind of similar life experiences. They're willing to help each other out. And what I quickly realized is the people that were the opposite spectrum from me, I had something that I could help them out in terms of, hey, this is how you pick up a sandbag. This is how you row. This is how you set your vest up if you want to make sure you're not going to whack yourself in the teeth. And they can help me out with the aspect of, I don't know anything about guns. How do I mount this optic? How do I hold my pistol? The whole 9 yards from that perspective. So like, the two different communities are really awesome in terms of the differences. And then your next question you went into, John, was what was it again? Remind me. I'm Dory the fish here.
I think we're both forgetting at this point now. It's funny, Jacob. When I was there, the one thing I did notice, to your point around law enforcement, there were very clearly a lot of veterans, a lot of cops, a lot of, I call them A-type personalities, but where they differ from a games athlete who are also A-type personalities is you could like look in these guys' eyes and see they've seen shit, right? Like they've dealt with people shooting back at them, but somehow they're coming together and finding this bond together around a sport and shooting and, I don't know, camaraderie maybe is the best way to put it. Have you seen those same differences? Like, I mean, I was only there for a moment, but you're spending time with these guys. Is there a material difference between these law enforcement and vets that are coming in to do this on the weekend and a games athlete that simply trains to work out?
Yeah, so the differences might be in what their goals are. I love the sport because, number one, it's a competitive outlet for me. Love it, right? From their perspective, it's actually, so a lot of guys that compete with are still active duty and or current law enforcement, right? And so a lot of them it's great for their jobs. It gets them, maybe not the people who are at the high end of the sport, but it's good for the people who are law enforcement who quickly realize they need to work on their fitness level, work on their firearm handling, and this is a great sport to test their gear out. And they show up and they quickly think, oh, in my law, my department, John, like maybe I'm pretty good at fitness, but when I go compete with other people, Panchik or Jacob or Kalipa or any of these other people, I quickly realize that I'm not as fit as I thought I was, and now I have something to strive for. The same thing that I do when I go compete with guys who are really good at shooting. I think I'm a hot turd until I compete next to someone who's a better shooter than me, and I realize I suck. And so you have something, the watermark increases when you go compete next to people and you quickly realize, like, I'm not as good as I thought I was, Tim McGraw, or whatever, whoever said that song. And I need to actually be better, and I can improve that because I see the people around me, essentially.
I think people who aren't, I don't want to say, who aren't like steeped in gun culture, don't know a lot about weapons, haven't handled them, don't use them for a living, might look at a group like the tactical games and see the vests and all that stuff going on and be like, okay, these people are like they're competing one weekend, but next weekend they're storming the Capitol. Like there's like this wrong with that.
He went there, ladies and gentlemen. He went there.
Like, everyone I have talked to who's ever been part of this sport says that couldn't be further from the truth. So, like, what do you say to people who have that perception of that group?
There was a article that came out. So we had and you probably basing it upon this, which is a good article. I mean, not a great article, but New York Times sent a writer out to the event, I believe in Washington State this year, and wrote an article. And it was pretty spot on to what you just said, Sean. Like, it talked about, there were definitely undertones of like, these guys are out here, for lack of better terms, we'll call it LARPing, right? Live action role play, where they're out here with guns, they're LARPing, and John we don't talk where he was in early January of a certain year, a couple years ago. Like there was definitely undertones of that. And you're right. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's just people being out there that we enjoy. Honestly, people don't ask this, but we come from all walks of life. It's not like, you might have people who have expectations of, I'm going to go to an event like this and I'm going to see a bunch of Let's Go Brandon flags. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. We have people that I compete with that disagree with me politically, but we don't care. No, number one, don't talk about it. Who gives a crap? But like, I don't care. And we have different walks of life in terms of what we believe in religiously, whether we, even sometimes when we have how we feel about firearm laws, whether it be firearms, religion, political affiliation, we all come from all walks of life. And the reason we're there is because we enjoy a sport. It's a safe sport to go out there. And number one, some people, this is the only fitness competition they're going to do. They get turned off by the amount of maybe competition or movements that are in the CrossFit games, which I don't blame them for because we're a little bit simpler. And they get to learn two skills, fitness, and they get to learn firearms. They become a really good handling of a firearm that, you don't wish upon someone that has that skill. Like, I don't wish that Sean would learn it in an effort to protect himself, God forbid. But if he has that skill, that's an amazing skill to have if he's ever called upon it to defend himself, his family, or someone else. And so you see a lot of people from all different walks of life. I think you'd be surprised when you walk around that it's not the people who are prototypical you would assume would be at a shooting competition. Now, in other sports, other shooting affiliated sports, probably. But we come from a sport where we pull in, like I mentioned, from two different genres. People who are really big into fitness, people who are into guns. Not to say that people who come into fitness don't like guns, but like there's a huge melting pot of people that show up to these events, more so than they were all doing something on January 4th or 5th or whatever the day that was. I don't remember.
I think there's a misunderstanding a little about the tactical games. I'd love your perspective on the safety portion of it. Like the time I was there, I've been to a lot of CrossFit events, whether it's the games or just, regionals or, just local events. And I've never seen judging as strict and as safety conscious as the tactical games were. Can you expand a little on what that looks like on a competition?
So here's actually a good quote. Owner of TAC Games, previous owner, told me this quote, and it was, his insurance for the events is cheaper than running a CrossFit event because there are more injuries that occur at a CrossFit event, which makes sense, than there are injuries that occur at tactical games. Now, obviously, injuries can still occur at tactical games, pulled hamstrings, whatever, but they had yet to have knock on wood, but because of the safety, which we'll talk about, they have yet to have an acute injury that occurs from a gunshot perspective, right? And that would be something that would be, you would assume would happen in a sport like that. It hasn't happened yet. Safety wise and judging wise, two different questions. So safety wise, everything you see we do, when you see me competing, you probably see me with a firearm on my hip, or I'm holding it. And if that firearm is out of my holster or I am pointing it downrange, if I'm holding it in my hands in general, I am on a firing line and we are shooting downrange towards targets. And before we leave that firing line to perform more fitness or whatever it is behind me, there is a specific clearing procedure that we have to do to ensure that the firearm is mechanically clear. Meaning, I'm going to drop the magazine out of my gun, whether it be rifle or pistol. I am going to cycle that firearm to make sure there's no single round in there, because there still could be. And then I'm going to point that firearm downrange at my target. I'm going to pull the trigger, and it's going to go click. If it goes boom, we got problems. If it goes click, that thing is mechanically clear. There's nothing in there. There's no way anything's ever going to be in there. I'm going to holster that pistol, or I'm going to lay that rifle on the ground, and then I'm going to continue going forward. And I have a judge that will make sure that I do that before I leave the line. If John, for instance, goes up the line, pulls that pistol out, loads it, shoots it, doesn't clear it how he should, and leaves, you're done. You're DQ'd for the whole weekend. You can judge the rest of the weekend. It happens to people for sure, and they get lost in the speed of movement, but that shouldn't, because you're lost in the speed of movement, should not affect the safety of everyone around you. So you're done for the weekend. It's a very held rule. So anytime you see me doing fitness sandbags with a pistol in my holster, that sucker's clear. If you see me with a rifle slow on my back, there's usually a chamber flag in it. This little green thing right there will be a chamber flag on the table. It'll be a chamber flag, so it's into my barrel, so this thing can't shoot. When it comes to judging, which is a whole separate question, how it works, which I really like, is it takes the subjective nature out of movements. So CrossFit is plagued by subjectiveness. That's why, you have people like Hiller that do videos, because of the movements that are in CrossFit, air squats, whatever the case may be. We have movements that are not subjective, meaning objective, meaning it's very easy to tell, because we don't necessarily, in every stage we don't have official judges. Like Sean's not coming here to judge for 30 heats a day for 3 days in a row. When I finish a stage, I'm taking off my gear, cleaning my gear up, putting it off to the side, and then I'm judging the next heat that goes. Similar to what you would see on a local CrossFit competition. But essentially, I'm not judging. I'm mainly just counting and making sure safety is withheld. So what are some unsubjective or objective movements we want to occur? Sandbag over yoke. Very easy. Did the sandbag go over the yoke, or did it not go over the yoke? That's pretty simple. Did you climb that rope? Did you get that wheelbarrow over the line or 100 yards? I mean, it's pretty simple. Did you pull your truck out and drag it? I can see you putting that. You didn't pick it up. So they're very simplistic movements. If I took you to a dirt field and we were going to do a lot of fitness, what would we do? Man, we'd run, we'd do burpees, we would do sandbag work, we'd climb ropes. There's nothing subjective where I'm looking for a hip to open up or a elbow to lock out or anything of that nature.
Well, and at the same time, you guys are kind of old school CrossFit in the unknown and unknowable phase, where if you get a big rainstorm, for instance, you're doing everything you just described in the mud, right?
So we were just I was just competing in Iowa at Brownell's headquarters, which would have been 3 days ago. Iowa. You probably can't find it on a map, but that's okay.
You watch your mouth. My mom's from Iowa.
Yeah, there you go.
So Sean's the only person who find Iowa on a map. Okay, so we're in Iowa, and you're right. We had a tornado come through the night before, rained the cats and dogs, rained the dickens the whole night. The day we competed, it wasn't raining per se. It's pretty foggy. Everything's wet. Everything's wet. So I had brought my videographer down there to compete for the first time. And old poor boy had the rope climb workout to start off the weekend with. And them ropes, they're left out overnight, in fairness, because that's the way it should be. The sandbags are out, the ropes are out. Everyone gets the same muddy freaking crap, no matter who you are. You get the same treatment. And so He unfortunately had to go first in the rope climb stage. He and the other divisions here went at the same time. And so, yeah, he's stuck with the elements. It's old school, unknown and unknowable. Weather definitely takes a play. We're not inside. Nothing's covered. The best part is like we all know Spencer Panchik, old Spence, right? And so Spencer comes out and does one. He's done a couple with me now. And I always ask him, like, how does this compare to, like, I know what it's like competing in CrossFit Games. Been there, done that. It's been a couple of years. Like, how does it compare for you? Like, how do you feel about it? And he's like, he's like, it's definitely like not as like physically challenging, like in the moment. Like, it's still physically challenging, but not like to that level. He goes, but across the whole weekend, I'd say it's harder. And I was like, well, why do you say that? He's like, because we're not pampered. Like, you're outside, it's porta potties, you're out in the sun. There's no shade. I mean, there's shade. You're bringing your food with you. You don't have your little like massage person there to work on you in between events or anything. Like, it's just, it's grungy, it's dirty, it's hard, and you're in the elements the whole time. But thing is, everyone's doing the same thing unless someone brings an RV. So
Spencer mentioned something about beating you on a run. I don't know.
He did. That dirtbag. So Spencer Panchik is not, the Panchik family in general is not good at two things, burpees and running. By Lord, they suck at both of those things. And so we had to do a mile time trial, which I wouldn't consider running. I prefer longer distance. We had to do a mile time trial in Idaho together. So he came up with me, flew in with me, and I took him to his first event this year. And Sucker sat behind me for 1,200 meters like a chump, and then passed me the last 200. But yeah, he beat me this one. Hey.
Well, didn't Scott Panchik do really well in that? Was it max burpees in 7 minutes workout? Like, isn't that the first time he showed up? So what happened?
Yeah, that's back when. That's back when I wasn't around. All of us weren't around. He was doing it by himself. Like, who was he competing with? Like random gymnastics people.
It seems like the tactical games, they're very self-aware. Like, they know what they are. Yeah. They don't try to hide it. But at the same extent, like every sport, every business, they want to grow. They want to make more money. So how has that been going as far as growth and expanding the field?
It's a solid question, Sean. So you're never going to probably, I'm sure the current owner, good friend of mine, and Nick Thayer, would love for the sport to be televised and do all these things. Could it happen? Possibly. I think it's very hard to get. You'd probably not be putting on CES per se. I think it'll be an uproar, but like, there's probably someone out there that would do it. It is a very hard sport to watch in terms of who's in front. If we're doing CrossFit, Sean passes the line first. Sean won. Like, that's an obvious perspective. But for our sport, we go pull targets to see, hey, what did Sean hit or what did he miss? And now we determine who actually won. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. The tactical games is the fastest growing shooting sport. And I know that sounds like you're the smartest dumb person in a class or whatever. But it is the fastest growing shooting sport to date. Because they are bringing in people like myself who have no business putting together a firearm because we're interested and we like fitness and we like guns, so we're going to go compete. It's the fastest growing sport. They are bringing in a lot of name brand sponsors that you wouldn't typically associate with firearms. Under Armour is a title sponsor and has been for a couple years. And they brought in some sponsorships. Concept 2, Greg from Concept 2, right? Greg Hammond's a good friend of mine. I called that turd up as soon as I went to the sport and I said, you need to sponsor this, Greg. Get over your like firearm stuff, like get over here. They're sponsoring this year, and I think it's really cool to see that. We've seen a lot of CrossFit companies switch over and join the sport because it's different. It's different media. It's a different genre. But it is a very fast growing sport. This will be my 5th season, my 5th year I've competed in it. And it has only grown every single year. They run about 13 to 14 events the whole year. And they're sold out every single time. And so it's been really cool. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, to be part of a sport where I can help drive the beginning of the sport and be a part of it from the beginning, and then hopefully leave a legacy in a sport that continues to grow past me.
I think you guys have a similar culture to CrossFit in the fact that you don't shut up about it. And I know that Nick himself has asked me to compete in the tactical games no less than a dozen times. And I love that. Like, you guys everyone's so proud of this sport and how much fun it is and the community and everything that's a part of it, that everyone's kind of begging others to get into it. And I really hope that continues, because I'd love to see it thrive, and I'd love to see people come into it that have been drawn into it. You know what I mean? Like brought in by others like yourself.
In the grand scheme of things, like, people are always like, well, it's different than CrossFit. And then you kind of ask that, is it CrossFit with shooting guns? This is kind of a previous question you asked. Like, when someone comes up to me and says, how do I train for this? I'm going to freaking say CrossFit. Like, that's a great representation. Now, when I tell them, hey, if you're in a functional fitness gym, you're pretty much already there. Like, now you got to train the firearm side of things. When you go there, it's not, obviously, when I look at CrossFit, I look at the wide swath of movements you have available to you to use. And we don't have that because it's subjective, objective nature to it. But I usually recommend people go to a CrossFit gym to go compete. It's not CrossFit with guns, because if it was, Spencer would do better. If it was, Spencer would do better. It's essentially very generic, old school, like, hey, we're going to do some grit style workouts, like gritty little workout, grit movements, brute style workouts in the middle of the field. So think of like what we did for fitness maybe like 8-9 years ago, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it seems like that tactical games and High Rocks sort of learn the same lesson, and that is take the complexity out of it, make it more accessible for people. Now, granted, having access to firearms and learning to use them, that's a barrier of entry. But as far as like the movements are concerned, that they've understood that like accessibility is the key to growth, because people are like, well, hell, I can put a sandbag over a bar. I can't handstand walk, but I can do that. And that makes it, I don't know.
It's super simple fitness. In my mind, it is truly real world functional. Will a snatch help you in this sport? Absolutely. Do I do it anymore? Absolutely not. Like it'll transfer over, but like we're not going to test it. And so it takes a lot of the complexity of the movements out. It's very basic. Pick this up, drag this, carry this. It's truly functional at its nature. I'm trying to think of like some functional movements we do that aren't functional. And there's really not a single one that I think, well, that's stupid. Like, that's not a real world movement at all. Yeah. We're moving sandbags, carrying things. It's essentially just making you better at carrying groceries in the house, basically.
Are there any movements in the tactical games you struggle with because of your forearm length? That's an OG joke for people that don't get it. You gotta go back and look it up.
We're not gonna, you get it, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. You get it. I had the capacity to do every movement in the tactical games without my forearm length being an issue.
How does your body hold up in tactical games versus CrossFit? I know that's kind of the conversation a lot of people have when they change. I'll just call it sports, but kind of change what they're doing day to day to training. Are you accepting it better, harder, worse? How's it going?
Yeah. So I knew I never wanted to be forced out of CrossFit. I never wanted to be forced out, meaning I never wanted to have to leave because I couldn't qualify or because my body was shutting down and saying, yeah, bro, like you can't squat anymore. Like you're done. I wanted to leave on my own terms and I wanted to go compete in something else, whatever the freaking heck that was. The TAC games has allowed me to compete in a sport for a longer time frame. Sure, could I have done CrossFit for 2-3 more years? Absolutely. Would I have been broken? Probably. This sport has given me the longevity from the fitness side of things where I don't have to snatch, back squat a bunch, like do heavy work. And so I'm allowed to compete at a high level of a sport, albeit a different sport that tests something different. Yeah. But I'm allowed to compete in the longevity for a sport for longer than I was if I was in CrossFit. So for that, I am blessed and I am thankful. So
I want to get into the boxing thing with Josh. So for for people who don't know, how'd that whole opportunity come about?
Cooper Marsh, Josh's manager, now also my current manager, called me up. It would have been 2021 Valentine's Day. We're in Hawaii. My wife and I are on vacation. And he texts me. I don't know how he got my number. Here we are. And he goes, hey, I got a random opportunity. This is Cooper Marsh, who I knew who he was. He goes, I got a random opportunity. You should call me. When you get that text message, you call that person because Lord knows you don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be good or a good story for later. So I call Cooper up. He tells me, hey, we had Josh lined up to possibly box Dave. I don't think it was probably like a something for charity, more than likely. He goes, but Dave pulled out for various reasons. I mean, it was a lose-lose for Dave. Dave was going to probably get beat up, and no one was going to be Team Dave. Like, no one was.
Right.
So it was just going to be a lose-lose. So he pulled out for his own reasons, and they were like, "You essentially got 6 to 7 months. You'll make money. We actually now have a card to put you on. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Okay, well, I got to talk to my boss, maybe my wife, and see what she says." So I walk in, and he gave me kind of a concept of what I might make. Because I was still thinking about competing in CrossFit. So I'm thinking, okay, this money has to overcome the fact that I'm going to compete in CrossFit because I can't do both. I can't do 2 good things at one time. I got to pick and choose. So I walk in and I say, "Hey, Kelly, I got a call. I don't know. It's kind of weird trying to bring this up to your wife. Like, how would you feel about me boxing Josh Bridges?" And she's like, probably think I'm sleepwalking or something. And at first she's like, "That is so stupid. Like, you're going to get hurt." And I said, "This is how much I could make." And she goes, "Yeah. So, when do you sign the contract?" And I was like, at that point, I called my insurance guy up and I said, "You need to raise my life insurance policy quickly. She might try to murder me." But yeah, so we signed. I called Cooper back. I said, "Hey, game on. I got to find a coach." And the rest is history. I didn't lift a barbell for like 6 weeks. 6 months. I pretty much only boxed exclusively for 6 months. And they moved the venue from, it was going to be in Vegas, but because we didn't have an amateur's card, we couldn't be on a card. They moved from Vegas to Florida, and then from Florida, because of COVID, they moved to Dubai. Dubai didn't have as stringent of COVID rules, and so we boxed in Dubai in September of 2021.
Did you win that fight?
Unanimous.
Nice. I figured you did. I didn't know. Okay.
Yep.
So had you had any experience with
no combat, no one-on-one, no singular? I'd always played team sports, so I'd not done combat sports, no wrestling, no nothing. I remember in July or August of 2021 at the CrossFit Games. I wasn't competing, but I was there for Olivia, and Dave pulled me aside and he goes, "Man, Josh is gonna like a couple of words in there, like he's gonna beat the living tarnation out of you." And I'm like, "All right, Dave, we about to see people voted against me in the past before, Dave." And so we got in that ring. It was a good time. Again, Josh and I have been friends forever. This definitely brought us together. The funny story I do tell is we're in Dubai, and we both brought our own camps with us, coaches and significant others and, team, whatever. And so, but they're in Dubai. So those people, when they're not training us, they're going off and experiencing Dubai things. Well, me and Josh are not doing that. We're resting up. And so they put all the fighters in the same hotel usually. And so there's only one place to eat, and it's only open like for an hour or whatever. And so it always comes out that usually Josh and I would have breakfast together, like because they're on in other time zones. They go off and go do things, and me and Josh would just sit at a table and have breakfast and just talk. And the fight coordinator walks in one morning. It's like the morning of the fight, I think, and everyone's gone doing something else, and me and Josh are hanging out. And he walks in, and I'm pouring Josh water. Like I'm, being a chivalrous guy pouring him water. And the guy walks in and is pissed. He's like, "Are you guys actually going to fight tonight?" Like, what? Like, you're pouring him his water. Calls us a couple of bad words. And me and Josh are like, "Yeah, we got no problem hitting each other, but like, I'm not going to hit. We're just hanging out right now." So, but yeah, it was a really good time. It was, Josh obviously had background in wrestling and has probably done his own striking from being a part of the SEALs at one time. I had not had that experience. But it was single-handedly, I learned more about myself in 6 months and also inside of 6 3-minute rounds than I have ever done from CrossFit. It was the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life, but I learned more about myself doing that than years of taking the floor in terms of CrossFit because you were completely outside of your comfort zone.
What'd you learn? Sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a lot of self-doubt, right? You tend to learn, like in CrossFit, I failed in front of people. I, was a thick and quick. I fell from that rope and thick and quick multiple times and couldn't climb a freaking rope to save my life back in that workout. And so you learn a lot about yourself. But when you fail in CrossFit, whether it be a lift, which I've done a lot of, or a movement or whatever, you get a no rep, you just keep going, right? Or you're resting. There's nothing bad about that. In terms of boxing, like you quickly learned, like man, if I fail, I'm gonna get the crap beat out of me out. Like I might get something broken. If I do something wrong, I might get injured. You could make the argument that could happen to CrossFit, but it's less likely. A lot of self-doubt that I had to come through in terms of like, do I want to do this? Is this worth it? Is this for me? And mainly stepping outside your comfort zone. You know, people always talk about it, and I had before this of like, hey, you step outside your comfort zone, you go out there in front of people and you compete. But in actuality, at some point, if you go compete in front of people for CrossFit, that is your comfort zone. You're okay stepping out there and failing in front of people because that's what you're used to. And so me saying, I am going to go do something that I have never done in my life, that I might get injured, and then I might lose in front of thousands of people on paid television for it. I have to be okay with that. And it was a good learning process to step out, to truly step outside and say, I'm going to learn something new and I'm going to start from square one. At the same time, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say at the same time, I was learning how to shoot. And so it was also like I was learning two different things at one time. It's kind of difficult. But I learned a lot from that. I wouldn't go back and probably do it again. Like if you asked me to box right now, I wouldn't go do it. But it was a very cool experience. And I think if anyone gets that opportunity to try a different sport, whether it be jujitsu, competing in that, or boxing or whatever, wrestling, that's a great skill, man. It's a great skill to learn. And also teaches you a lot about yourself pretty quickly.
You guys were on the undercard for, if I remember, I was Eddie Hall and Thor, the guy that played the Mountain on Game of Thrones. Have you ever been around anyone as big as intimidating as that dude?
No, that dude, and the dude moved well too.
Yeah.
That guy, impressively enough, like Eddie had to pull out because of a bicep, and they had to rematch like a couple months later, or whatever. And they pulled in. What was that guy's name? He's a professional arm wrestler, but he's Canadian special forces. I've never seen someone move so well in terms of the Mountain. That dude can move for a big guy. Very impressive. Yeah, he was the title card for that fight. I think we were the undercard for that for sure. So,
how do you punch your friend in the face? Because here's the thing. I've always wanted to try boxing, but it's like I'm friends with John. I couldn't step in the ring with John. Like I wouldn't want to hit him. Like I couldn't do it. But the second he hit me, I'm like, oh, okay, now we're like,
I could do it. I could totally punch
I know you totally can. Like, I have a punch in the face.
It's definitely a mindset shift thing. It's definitely a mindset shift for sure. It probably definitely would have been different had we like lived next to each other and spent a lot of time with each other leading into it. But it wasn't like Josh lives down the road from me, and it wasn't like we hung out every weekend. So definitely, I mean, it may have been easier that way. And, like sometimes the people you're closest to, the people you feel okay hitting them in the face or yelling at them anyways, right? So it definitely, I don't think it was hard for either of us. I mean, when the bell goes off, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go hit this guy. Because the fact of the matter is, if I don't do it, you're going to hit me. So I don't want to take that.
I guess for me, it's like I equate wanting to inflict punishment on someone with anger. And that's not what you're doing. It's a competition.
Nah, I mean, there's some anger in it. There's definitely anger in it. I mean, yes, Josh. I mean, I'm sure you're having this podcast. You'll probably say the same thing. Like, it's definitely a competition, but there's definitely some anger. There's definitely like some like, hey man, like, you don't think as an example, there was definitely betting on this fight. Mm-hmm. I had some friends that I wish they would have paid me 1% of this money. The odds were, in terms of Katniss Everdeen, not in my favor for this fight. And I had some friends who made some pretty good money off me. I've never seen a dividend of that, which pisses me off. But like stuff like that, like there's expectations like Dave telling me you're going to get your teeth kicked in because of his background being a SEAL, or people telling me that you're gonna lose. There's some anger because of that. Not necessarily at Josh, but at the situation of like, no, like I can do this. I got something to prove. So I have long forearms, John.
That helps.
No. Full circle.
Yes.
Full circle for this. Hey, Dave forgot about that when he talked trash to me. Didn't forget for the handstand push-ups though.
There you go. Nice callback. I've made a joke for years, Jacob, that you're an honorary pan check, and then in true pan check form, You went out and had twins, just like a pan check. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
ask you the
well, I
same
mean,
question.
Scott hasn't, so I think I picked Scott's spot in this point.
I know, pretty much. You should be getting Christmas cards from Mama Pan if you're not already. But the question I have for you, same one I asked for most fathers: what do you know now that you didn't know before having children?
Yeah. So you tend to say, I'm too busy for that. And you don't know that. Oh, you don't have kids and you have a fur baby? You are not that busy until you have, and again, whether it be one kid, two kid, three kid, I'm sure it exponentially or linearly as it gets more kids, I'm sure it's more, right? So I only speak from my experience just having two. And again, that's changed in the life cycle of that child or children. As you have them in the beginning, man, they sleep, they eat, and they sleep some more. Well, a little different now because they're all crawling around the floors upstairs, and so they're not as sleeping as much. And so people tend to say that they're busy, and I get it. You think you're busy, but you're really not until you have kids, I feel like. And the other thing was, people always try to explain what you're going to go through in terms of emotion. And one guy actually said it perfectly. He told me, I will not do it justice. He goes, people are going to try to explain it to you and they're going to fail. You're just going to have to go through it yourself because you're going to go through it your own separate way. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with me. And so going through that, that gentleman was correct. I've had friends since then that have become pregnant and had kids. And I told them the same thing because it's like, I can't describe it for you. I can't describe the fact of, like you walked into a hospital, you and your wife, you walked out, you had one kid or two kid. They pulled this child or children out of your wife, whether it be C-section or natural birth, however it happened. And now you're a dad and you're a mom and you're in charge of this person. And no, by the way, in a couple days, you're going to leave this hospital and they're going to trust you to leave this child. Like right. That to me was like, is there like paperwork or something? Like, but yeah, it's a wild experience for sure.
Do you have sort of like a guiding principle or something? I heard, of all people, I heard a quote from Mr. Rogers who said, and I think Oprah asked him the question about like, what would you tell parents? And he said, remember what it was like for you. And so I try to keep that in mind, like when I'm dealing with my sons, like remember what it was like for me when I was 5. Is there something that you use as sort of your North Star?
I mean, not for parenting yet. I would say like they're going to be 11 months in like 9 days, right? So we're not to the point where like I would say I'm not truly parenting, right? Like right now I am essentially trying to ensure that they're not killing themselves, right? I'm not like no means nothing. Like I'm not truly parenting to a degree. Currently right now I am just, like I mentioned, feeding, wiping butt, and making sure they don't fall off a couch. So I don't have per se, I think, a mantra for childhood yet, for fatherhood, I should say. But I definitely get back to you whenever comes in my mind.
How is your first baby Winston handle the kids?
Dude, he's sorely neglected. I'll tell you that right now. sorely. I tell you what,
changes,
yeah. I remember, the funny thing is, like I remember, this is me dogging on my wife now, pun intended, is her being like, oh no, we're gonna have kids, and Winston's gonna be fine, I'm still gonna love him. As soon as we have the kids, third, fourth, fifth priority. Now, still a priority for all those people that are listening. They're like, how dare they have a dog? But like, definitely when you have kids, you're like, dog or kid? Kids. And so that dog takes tertiary to priority to the kids for sure. But he's definitely, in terms of like the baby weight, like, oh, dad bod gaining weight. The only person in his house has gained weight is freaking Winston because he doesn't exercise anymore as much.
Right.
Well, he just
like loaf around now.
Oh, bro, he doesn't go outside. He just stays in the house, watches the kids, and so he doesn't do much anything. He's definitely put on some poundage that I think he's going to be stuck with.
I love it. How are you juggling all this? You got twins now, you're doing tactical games, you're coaching Olivia, you always seem to have like 1,000 projects going on at once. How are you juggling all this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I actually don't per se coach Olivia. I turned her over to the Proven team, which is a team that I trusted that they would do a good job. And so Chris and Olivia go to my barn to work out. And so I'll go in there. If I know the workout that I can beat them in, I'll definitely join in. But if not, I'm not showing up for that. You
Right.
got to pick and choose, right? You got to let them know,
course. Yeah.
And so I'll definitely show up, still give advice, talk them through things if they ask for information. Because like when they see workouts, Chris or Olivia will still text me and be like, "What do you think about this?" And then I got to put my mindset back in 2019, Jacob, not 2025, Jacob. Yeah, we definitely juggle a lot. The wife and I both work from home. We both have a lot of companies we run. We built this house, so we're on the same property that you've ever seen. I live on 50 acres outside Kansas City. And so we lived in a very, very small house on the property that we renovated and built a barn behind it, or 100 meters behind it, or whatever. And then we started building this house before we decided to have kids, like right before, and decided, okay, time to have kids. We, did the math, takes a year and a half to build a house, 9 months to have a kid, blah, blah, blah. This house was finished the day we moved in. The day we moved into this house was the day we brought the kids home from the hospital.
Wow.
It could have been more. Yeah. Perfect timing. Yeah.
Man.
So it worked out pretty frequent. It was also a very stressful week for obvious reasons. But yeah, so we have my younger sister now goes to college nearby in town. And so she actually nannies for us and lives on the other house on the property. So we're busy, but we have a lot of nannies that come in with our kids. So my wife and I are still able to work and run the companies that we run inside of our house, which is a blessing for sure. Because I could not, if I was trying to manage kids and compete and stay at the high level of a sport and also run companies and also have to watch the kids 24/7, it would be impossible. And what's going to take priority? The kids.
Yeah.
So, the companies or cat games would have to tank because of that. Yeah. So
yeah. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but
I will.
I always admire the way that you kind of like, if there's something going on in the CrossFit space that's a little controversial, like you'll pop in and you give your 2 cents. You're like, hey, that's what I think. I'm out.
Yeah.
If I put you in charge, of sport, let's just say it's, you're king for a day and you had, some things that you wanted to fix or change with the sport. Like what would be 1 or 2 things where you'd be like, this is non-negotiable. This has got to happen for this to get to where we want it to be.
Okay. So I am the czar for the day for CrossFit, and I'm in charge of the sport. And what do I want to do? And I have unlimited power across the sport. Okay. I think you see. You would ask this question. I think you see. Back in the day, CrossFit was very grassroots. And it was well attended. The community was awesome. It still is awesome, but the community was even better because the people that competed in the high end of the sport usually owned the CrossFit gym and were involved in the community. And I think what you see now a lot of, and this is not, I am going to say a statement that doesn't necessarily is not a blanket statement, but definitely could be applied to certain situations. And that is, I think you're missing out on the fact that the only reason we have the CrossFit Games is because of CrossFit affiliates. And I think that is missing on a lot of people that compete in the sport, a lot of younger athletes, no fault of their own. They have been raised differently in the sport because they haven't gone to an affiliate. Whereas, how did I find CrossFit? On a military installation, being invited to go to an affiliate. Did I coach and get my level 1? Absolutely. Rich Froning owned a gym. Everyone owned a gym back in the day, except for me. And so, everyone was involved in the foundation of the sport. When you look at the fitness pyramid, sport is the top. And it's not meant to be the CrossFit Games as sport. It's meant to be sport, meaning take your fitness and do other things, tactical games, Spartan race, high rocks, whatever. But when you look at it in actuality, you can really break that thing down into, if CrossFit Games was the pinnacle of the sport, the affiliates are the base. Because if you don't have the affiliates, you don't have the sport, because the sport is subsidized by the affiliates. And so if I'm in charge of the CrossFit Games, I am bringing, whether it be value or notoriety or help back to the affiliates that needs to be done. I don't know if that's, hey, you know what, Sean, I'm sorry I raised your rate from $500 to $4,500 for annually. We're going to bring it back down. or, hey, you know what, we can't do that, but instead I'm going to bring this value to you in terms of masterclass stuff that you can sign up for, where I bring in people to watch videos. There are a lot of ways to bring affiliate owner value, and I think it needs to be brought back to that, and that's what's missing in this sport, in CrossFit as general, not as a sport. So
yeah, no, I think there's something to that, and I've talked about this with other people. It's like, I remember back in 2012, 2011, like you worked out alongside the people that were trying to go to regionals, and then you would go and watch them compete at regionals, and then like if you went to the games, like, hey, Matt Chan was at my L1, or like there was that connection, and like you said, I don't think it's anybody's fault, but the sport just evolved to where it got more professionalized, and that connection somewhere got, I don't want to say severed, because I think it is still there, but it's been lessened.
Yeah, it's been lessened. I mean, Chris Spieler gave my level 1. And so, by golly, man, I watched videos and I met Chris Spieler. Like, he gave me a level 1, and then I got to go compete with Chris Spieler. Freaking dope. And so, I think what people expect is, like, as sports become more professionalized, NFL, whatever the crap, like, they change. And the CrossFit Games, I'm not in charge of finances, but in my mind, the CrossFit Games is never going to be able to subsidize itself. It cannot afford itself. It's always going to be subsidized by something else, and which is fine. But because of that very reason, because it can't afford itself and become in the black, therefore you have to give credence back to the fact that it is there because of the affiliates, and that's not being done very well. Whether it be for leadership or private equity that currently owns that doesn't understand it, I don't freaking know. If and when CrossFit gets sold by whomever or whatever, that is a sport that I would love to go work for, because I think a lot of us, myself or Rich or Annie or those guys are probably a little bit higher than me, but like in terms of names, I am only in the position I am in because of this sport, but not even sport, because of CrossFit. I want to clarify that. That's the only reason I'm on this podcast. That's the only reason we're having this freaking podcast. That's the only reason I know who Sean Woodland is, or John Wooley, or Jacob Heppner, or whomever, or Scott Panchik. And if I have the opportunity to give back to that sport and say, okay, let's get this sport the next level, by golly, I'd freaking do it in a heartbeat. Right. And I think that's also what's missing from the sport, or the CrossFit in general, the methodology. They have perennial athletes that would give their arm and a leg for the company, that would do it in a heartbeat, but they don't take advantages of us, and they don't use us, and we're almost ostracized. Not ostracized per se, but like, oh yeah, you competed, that's all you were good at. There are a lot of people who compete in that sport that are amazing businessmen and women, or are good at something else, whether it be public speaking or finances or whatever the case may be. And so they need to take advantage of the fact that people who grew the sport in the beginning would love to help out in the future, for whomever buys it. Like Adrian Conway is a great example of that. Dude was a competitor, and now, just like you guys, great at talking through events and going through broadcasting. And I love it because of his background, because of your guys' background. You can do what you can do. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about something way in your past. You and I have talked about this before, but I don't think a lot of people know this about you, that you played football at Central Methodist University, and you were just one of 11 NCAA FCS players who was named to the Good Works team for community service. How did you tell the story about how you got that honor?
Yeah, we did a lot of community service. I did a lot of community service in college. A lot of it was brought about because of my sister going through being a St. Jude patient for cancer, for leukemia. And so it was quickly, we didn't pay $1 for that. I think people like sometimes kind of understand that with St. Jude, but like not really. But when you see a St. Jude patient, it's usually a child under 18, that family or that child is not paying a dime. And when I say a dime, I don't mean like for treatment. I mean like getting there, lodging there, and food there. And that is a lot of money too. And so we didn't pay a dime for that. And that happened during college for me, early in college. And when you're being told, hey, John, hey, Sean, like your younger sister, who's 16 years younger than you, is going to go through treatment where we have to pay for it. Are you going to go to college? Absolutely not. You're going to say, take that money and save my sister's life. That's a freaking no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, when you don't have to make that decision because there exists a company called like St. Jude out there or other companies of similar nature, then you quickly realize that the philanthropy behind it of like giving back and doing community service, that's what we did in college. And so it was kind of pressed upon from the guy who was our head coach in our team, but I did a lot of things that were not necessarily required of us. In terms of like we did bone marrow swabs at campus quite a bit, walking school bus. We did a lot of community service during college to give back. Not necessarily always giving back to St. Jude per se, but that was the concept behind it, was in other different ways. And because of that, I received the honor of being a part of that team. Also on that team was RG3.
Wow.
Yeah. So I watched him backpedal as fast as he could. And I thought to myself, I think he can backpedal faster than I can sprint.
Yeah, it's next level, those guys.
Freak athlete.
And so everyone knows your sister is okay.
Yeah. So she's actually in Florence, Italy, currently on a 3-week. She's get back this weekend. So when the time this goes live, she'll be back. She went there for study abroad. She loves to sew and is a seamstress. And so when I have to turn pants into shorts or fix things, she sews my stuff for me. But yeah, she currently lives on the property with us and nannies for us. And so she's doing great. Been in remission for years and years and years. But she still goes back to St. Jude. If you want to, you can go back every year for St. Jude and they still test you to see how you're doing. And they use that going for the future because it is a research facility. So they want to know, okay, well, this patient went through chemotherapy. Let's keep her to coming back every 4 or 5 years to test out her blood, not because it might come back, but because we can use for research related to maybe help someone else out.
Yeah. One thing I've loved about your journey, Jacob, is when I got started in social media within CrossFit, I quickly started following parents of athletes because that's where you get the best photos, right? When they start posting their kids' photos, And so I started following Mom Hep, and she would share a lot about St. Jude. And it occurred to me then, like, that's how special our community is because not only you get to know the athletes, but if you follow close enough, you get to understand who their families are. And then these stories come to life, kind of like you're telling here. And I think that's where our community is really special, is then they start to understand what it really means in individual families, and they start donating and contributing and being a part of that journey and helping people. And so I really appreciate what you and your family have done in that regard, because I think it's opened a lot of eyes to people and helped them really understand the work that St. Jude does.
She, and I appreciate it, I'm sure she does too, but she actually reached out to, it had been a few years in, I don't quote me on the date, but she reached out to a bunch of CrossFit Games athletes for their jerseys at the end of a certain year to donate. Like, you could bid on it and donate and get, Noah Ols's jersey, as an example, or Scott Panchik's jersey. And so we raised a lot of money, we, including the CrossFit Games athletes that gave up stuff, raised a lot of money to give back. And so, yeah, you don't, everyone, when you look at a CrossFit Games athlete take the floor, you have to realize that that's not their life. There are other things in their life they're going through. Their life doesn't revolve around what you see in front of them. And there are other things they're going through in that time. And so, so following significant others or their mothers and fathers, you can probably see them go through that and also get amazing photos too.
Oh yeah. I would have bid on the jerseys, but I don't wear a small. So it would have been,
Well, I think we had bigger athletes for sure. Like, I think Khalifa might have given his or whatever. So, I'm going to fit that one,
He's a big boy. I am going to see your twin brother, Scott, tomorrow. Actually on Saturday. So I'm going to make sure to tell him that I hear his burpees suck, and we're going to see how that goes for me.
he was out here. So he does, a lot of us now that compete in the sport now program, whether online or for big, larger CrossFit competitions. And so he programs for a CrossFit competition called Desert City Classic, which is down in Arizona. I think it's Phoenix.
Yep.
And I program for, I would call their sister company. Not affiliated, but they share qualification spots. And that is the Monster Games that is here in Overland Park. And so the Scott and the Desert City team were out on my house a couple months back to go through qualifiers, film some stuff in my barn, because it was not an affiliate per se, but it's a gym that you can get as much filming as you want, you can film it, and you don't got to clean up, and you got to worry about a class coming in, and it's pretty. And so they came out and we did a couple workouts together, and he destroyed me at a I have bench press handstand walk one. So he felt pretty good about himself. But he was done for the weekend. He was tired about Masters games or whatever. I don't even know.
He's pretty fit.
Yeah, still
It
pretty
was
fit.
several months ago. We were texting about something, and I'd been doing this. I was roasting people online. It was just like, kind of a typical joke on the page. And he goes, "Hey, you should roast me." I'm like, "Oh, you don't want that." He's like, "No." He's like, "Roast me." I'm like, "Scott, you don't want that. I can do it in a sentence." He's like, "Go ahead and do it." I'm like, "Okay, you're the fourth fittest span check." He got so mad.
Yeah, don't ask for it and they get upset.
He got so mad at me. He had like just retired, not that long ago. So I'm sure he was in a place with it. But I was like, I felt bad afterward. Like, you asked for it. You asked for this.
Yeah, I've always been close to the Panchik boys, but it's been really cool to now get to spend more time with Spencer, and I still stay in contact with Saxon every now and again for WP stuff. But to have Scott here, like I've always loved those boys. I've always looked up to Scott in all the years I competed. Never did beat him, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Like that to me is really cool. I just beat up on his younger brother now. It's fine. It's whatever.
As you should.
Before we go, I just have a couple self-indulgent questions for you. Here it is. Andor, great Star Wars franchise or greatest Star Wars franchise?
Good question.
Ooh. Well, are they still going to come out with like, they still need to do a Thrawn one, dude. Like they had him in Ahsoka, but
okay, that was
not going to do it.
That's my next.
Yeah. Okay. So the Andor one was good. Like I thought it was so good that the second season was much better than the first. I thought. I mean, it was still good. It was good in its own right. Yeah. And I thought the way it connected into the whole universe, primo. Like the fact that you can just watch Rogue One right after and it just rolls into it. Bro, I literally then got done. I'm like, would you like to watch Rogue One? Yes, I would, Disney Plus. Would you like to watch A New Hope next to that? Yes, I would. Thank you, Disney Plus.
Right.
They absolutely crushed that. It was really freaking good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And okay, so I got to ask you about, you mentioned Thrawn, and you and I both have an affinity for that character, and we've had for a while.
Oh, great character. I
could not have been more disappointed with the way they portrayed him in Ahsoka. I was like, this is like fat COVID Thrawn. Like, this is not the Thrawn I wanted.
Right.
I feel like
I'm glad they had him there. I'm glad they put him there. Like, I guess something's better than nothing. But yeah, they didn't do it. They also didn't give him. It's also, he's not the leading character in a show. Like you've read the book series before. Yeah. So like they could do a whole freaking series on the books. I don't need to see he's a B character in Ahsoka. Like he's not a leading character. But I would prefer to see a leading casting character of him, whether that's that guy or somebody else in that role. I still to this day think would be amazing for sure.
What do you guys think of Skeleton Crew?
Space Goonies?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yes. No.
Is that hasn't come out though yet, right?
Oh, it has.
No, it's out.
You didn't miss anything if you didn't see it.
Oh, I loved it.
Is that the kid one?
Yeah, it's Space Goonies. Just take Goonies and put it in space. That's essentially.
Oh yeah, I watched it. It wasn't bad. I mean,
it's all right. Yeah,
Disney made.
It wasn't Andor. Andor was incredible.
No.
Andor's pretty great.
You're limited with kids. Like for a fact, no one's dying. That's the first thing No one's dying.
Yeah.
So, like, just take that out of it. But it was decent.
Yeah. Well, you guys are the only two I send Star Wars memes to. So please keep watching, and I'm going to continue to send it to both of you.
John still does for sure. Yeah.
Thus concludes the nerd portion of this interview. So,
thank you. If you watch this far, we appreciate you.
That's why we save it to the end. So, Jacob, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. Always great talking to you. Glad things are going well. Best of luck with the kids, and you're gonna be a hell of a dad, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man.
Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Yep.
Fun times.
I love Jacob Heppner. I remember my earliest time, like one of the first things the times I realized that this guy's cool is when he did an interview. I think he won an event. I think it was 2015 at the CrossFit Games. And I think it was Nikki who was interviewing him. And it was the one with the giant, was it pedal to the metal? I can't remember. They had the giant kettlebells that they had to deadlift. He's like, yeah, those things were heavy. And he looked right in the camera. He goes, they look like the Death Star. Like I grabbed the mic. I was like, yeah, that guy's pretty cool. Like takes what he does seriously, but not himself seriously. So that was fun.
I just appreciate how enthusiastic and hyper positive he is. Like we live
Yeah.
in a world right now that feels like it's on fire. I've used that phrase a few times lately,
Mhm.
and like it's full of anxiety and negativity, and like there's so much out there that people are raging about. And whenever I see his content, it's him on his C2 bike rocking his kids.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or training with Olivia or shooting with friends or whatever he's doing, but he's always smiling and engaging and excited to be there and being a positive influence in other people's lives. And then you couple that with he's literally the hardest working man in show business. Like
Yeah.
he he said they're running multiple jobs. He is not kidding. Like I
Mhm.
feel like that dude's got 5 jobs going at any given time. And I appreciate how hardworking he is and how positive he is, because that's hard to maintain for a long period of time. And I think it really speaks to his character, which is very
Yeah.
cool.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like there are people that, you know, I cannot think of and I haven't had a ton of direct interactions with Jacob, but I've never had a negative one. Like I've never felt like he was not a positive person or that, man, that really brought the mood down. Um, so yeah, I really, I don't think in today's world, it's difficult to maintain that. And I think that, he does a good job of that. And
I do legit send him Star Wars memes on the regular.
Mhm.
And one thing I love to do, I should have said this while he was on the air, but one thing I love to do, because he's very conservative and I think kind of religious, or at least he's very moral for whatever that's worth. I like to send off color ones because I know he won't laugh at them. Like he always laughs at the stuff I send, but when I send the dirty ones, he won't laugh at them. And I do that intentionally.
Yeah,
I love it. I just love
make
doing
it
that to
uncomfortable.
people.
Mhm.
Yes, it's the best. So
Yeah.
good dude all around. And I hope everyone got my forearm joke. If not, you got to go Google Jacob
Do your
Heppner
research.
forearms.
Yep.
Yeah, handstand push-ups. That was a big debacle. He
That
was
was a big deal.
pre-Hiller in
Well,
those days.
and even with that, like as I mentioned in the interview, like anytime there was something controversial, and I can't remember the last time he weighed in on something. I think it had to do
Mhm.
with maybe the box step ups. He weighed in on it.
Yeah.
He did it in a way it was like, hey, here's what I think. You disagree with me? That's fine. But it wasn't like a rage post. He threw his opinion out there. He invited people to disagree with him or not, and he just went along his merry way.
Hey, I loved his opinion there. I think that he's spot on. You know, the connection
Mhm.
between, being in an affiliate, whether you're an owner or a member, and the games has to be tighter. Now, I'm not here to assign blame to anyone for what happened in between that, but I think he's spot on. If you get that connection tighter and show that the games are about the affiliates and the affiliates are about the games, it continues to grow and thrive, and the culture continues to grow and thrive, and people are happier. The farther you get away from that, the more it just feels like another sport, and then that's where the infighting comes in. And
Yeah,
so
agreed.
I think he has really good instincts in that regard. So Jacob Heppner for CEO,
Or for something. And
over
he's right.
something.
There's so many people out there who want to be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can happen. And I admire like Rich Froning for this saying, and he's right. Let's get everybody in a room and talk.
Yeah.
And there's going to be things that people will disagree on, but I bet given the personalities of those people, at the end of the day, they're going to come to some sort of consensus and they'll all get on the same page and be like, all right, we're moving forward with this. Even
Well,
if
you
you
look
don't
at
agree with some of it.
Yeah, and you look at guys like Hebner who run 4 or 5 businesses, and he mentioned Jason Kalipa, who has a very well run NC Fit group of gyms,
I'm a
and
member.
guys like that, and Spieler and these guys that are kind of OGs. They're all very smart
Mhm.
businessmen, and it's almost a little like malpractice to not bring them in and to take their guidance for free. Like these guys are all willing to give
Yeah.
their business savvy for free if we're willing to take it. And I hope at some point somebody reaches out their hand and goes, yeah, give it to us. We want it all because you guys are smart, and people respect you, and it will continue to bring people in. So, and I know they're doing some of that, so I don't want to act like they're not doing any of it, but I hope that propagates and grows, as Jacob said he'd like to see it. That would be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. All right. Anything else we need to address? Solve any
When are
more?
we when are we doing a Star Wars episode?
You know what? Here's what I wanted. This is what I've wanted to do. And I've mentioned this to Haley Adams. So maybe we can get her on. I would
Perfect.
just, I'm so intrigued by her fandom because she is a hardcore fan who got to it much later, like when the prequels came out. Like that's
Yeah.
her. I don't know anybody from the prequel era that's like that hardcore a fan. Most of the hardcore fans like look like me. They grew up with it,
Yeah.
and then they kind of have tolerated what has happened recently. I mean, there's been some few bright spots, but that would be the episode I'd want to do with Haley.
All right, I'll reach out to her. I bet she'd be up for that. I think that'd be super fun because I'm like you. I mean, I literally had first generation Star Wars toys. I remember vividly digging holes in my backyard and burying my X-wing fighter like it was on Dagobah,
Oh yeah.
and
Saw it.
pretending it's getting levitated. I mean, I would have been
Mhm.
10, you know. And it's just all vivid in my mind because that was my childhood, was
Yeah,
Star Wars.
I remember the empty boxes that they sold.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like you could buy, toys were in so much demand that what you would do is it's essentially a voucher. You would go to the store and you would
Yeah.
buy an empty box. And it was like, you're going to get these when they come in, and then you would take it back and they would turn it in. Like I think my parents actually did that.
Yeah, I was probably sitting on tens of $1,000s worth of toys that I just
I don't even want
wrecked
to
and
think about it.
destroyed.
I don't even want to. I have, yeah. Like if only I had known, keep that, buy an extra one and don't
Yep.
touch it, but
All right. Well, my homework would be to reach out to Haley Adams so we can do a Star Wars episode. But otherwise, this was great. Appreciate your
fun.
time as always, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. See you next Tuesday.
All right. Take care.